This video is an acoustic guitar primer. This video is designed to help you get going on the acoustic, to find your C legs, if you will. If you're not aware of how the instrument works, or if you're new to the instrument, or if you're not new to the instrument and you are kind of doing this stuff but you don't really know why it works, this is just some general good to know information that actually I think as a guitar player it's kind of required to know this stuff. Whether you're an acoustic guitar player or an electric guitar player, because it's all the same guitar. It's whether you're playing acoustic or electric. It's the same fretboard. I'm assuming that you know how to play your cowboy chords. The major ones and the minor ones. And maybe you know a couple different variations of some different ways to play some minor chords. That's cool too. The ones that I'm going to refer to are the 5 primary cowboy chords: C, A, G, E, and D, and the 3 minor ones: A minor, E minor, and D minor. Those are what I refer to as shapes on the guitar. Shapes are what we use on the guitar to make chords. And you might notice if you put a capo on maybe the 3rd fret and you play a C chord, what you're actually playing is the C shape, and it's giving you an E flat major chord, because the notes that you're getting when you play that C chord with the capo on the 3rd fret are E flat, G, and B flat. Just so happens that you're thinking C and you're playing C, but the chord that's coming out is E flat. So that's important to know. That the shapes are not chords themselves. The shapes are what we use to make the chords. And we call it the C shape because when we tune our guitar to standard tuning and we play that shape, C, in the open position, the chord that comes out is C major. And we call this G because in the open position in standard tuning, the chord that comes out is G major. And the same goes for all of the other ones. So that's how the shapes are named, and that's how they're labeled on here, sort of, kind of. And we'll talk about this a little bit. All right. So go back to the stuff you need to know series, and make sure that you're aware of the major scale, of major and minor chords, how we get chords from the scales in the key signatures that we're playing in, and the Nashville number system as well, and the number system in general. So that is what this is based on. That is what acoustic guitar playing is based on in pop music, and by extension in worship music. So notice at the far left side over there on the first column, it says form right there. So the form is, well, these are all chord progressions. I'll just say that. There's a 1 chord, a 4 chord, a 5 chord, and a 6 chord. And for each form, the 1 chord is played by a different shape, and the 4 chord is played by a different shape. And the same goes for the 5 and the 6 chord. Every single form combines the cowboy chords, C, A, G, E, D, E minor, A minor, D minor. It combines those shapes, the 5 major and 3 minor shapes, into chord progressions based on intervals, based on how many of a certain interval is the 1 chord from the 4 chord to the 5 chord to the 6 chord, and at the same time, how many intervals is it away from a C chord to a G chord. So let's take the C form to start off with. The C form is based on the C chord, which means the C chord shape, right? The C chord shape is the 1 chord. The form is named after the chord shape that makes the 1 chord in this particular form. And it doesn't matter if you have a capo on, doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter what key you're playing in, this is just the shapes, right? So the C shape is the 1 chord in the C form, regardless of key. Okay. So if the C shape is 1, then you have to think about chords a little bit. You have to think about the musical alphabet a little bit. I've also got this little handout here. You have to think about the musical alphabet. Here's C. Now how many, what's the interval from C, which is 1, to whatever the 4 chord is? We have to find that out. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F is 4. Okay, so back to here. We can see that here across the top we have the chord name that we're actually playing, and the shape is pictured here. We don't actually have a shape for the F chord, which means we have to use one of our 5 major chord shapes to make that chord. The easiest one to get to is the E shape, which is this bar chord shape that everybody's familiar with. And there it is, right there. You can see the shape is the E shape. It's the same shape that we use to make the E chord, but it is slid up 1 fret because F is 1 fret higher than E, and it's a major chord, so the major chord shape creates a major chord no matter what. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. So C is our 1 chord, which means F is going to be our 4 chord, and we have to use the E chord shape to play the F chord. And did I play the C chord? I can't remember. Whatever. C is our 1 chord, F is our 4 chord. Now what is 5 of C? What is the 5th chord from C? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's G, and the 6th one while we're here is A. Alright. So we have a shape for the G chord. Nice and easy. And the 6th chord is always minor in a major key, which means A is going to be a minor chord. We have an A minor shape. Great. So there's only that 1 F chord that we need to borrow a shape to play. And we'll talk about this in a couple of different ways as I go through the video. But there we go. There's how the shapes work in a form. Next one is the A form. The A form, obviously your 1 chord, no matter what key you're playing in, whether you have a capo or not. And actually, I'll grab a capo here, and I'll put it on just for the sake of it. So I'm just putting it on in a random spot. It happens to be the 5th fret. And we're moving to the A form. And I always play the A form as a bar with my first finger. I can always get a better sound with it that way. So our A shape is our first chord. Here we have the 1 chord column down to the A form and the A chord shape, if you can see it right there. The A chord shape is our 1 chord, which means the 4 chord is going to be D, right? A, B, C, D. D is the 4th note from A, and so it's going to be the 4th chord after the 1 chord. Alright, so the D shape is our 4 chord. And the 5 chord, here we go, it's an E chord, and we're thinking in the key of E. This is another place where the capo kind of throws a confusion part into it. These chords here are assuming that you're in the open position, and this is something that happens with chord charts that we'll talk about. I'll talk about that after I finish with the A form. But anyway, the E shape is our 5 chord, and the F sharp minor is our 6. Okay, so the capo, right? So what key are we playing in right now? The key of D. We're actually playing in the key of D, but we're using the A form. So the A shape is our 1 chord, which is giving us a D major, and our 4 chord is D, which is giving us a G major chord, and our 5 chord is going to be using the E shape, which is giving us an A major chord, and the 6th chord, F sharp minor. Now F sharp minor, if we take the capo off, we have to play using, just like the F chord uses the E major shape, The F sharp chord would probably use the E shape as well. It's only one fret away. And the minor versions would use the E minor shape. So normally, let me get the full guitar in there. So normally we have the E minor shape like this. I use a fingering that gets my fingers out of the way. I'm confusing, the camera's mirrored. So there's E minor, and F minor goes up one fret, and F sharp minor. So if you're reading, if you're just learning whatever song, a lot of times it will say F sharp minor. If F sharp minor is the sixth chord it's the sixth chord in the key of A major. It is the sixth of A. But if you're playing a song and you have like we just had the capo on fret 5, just to put it in the same place. Now we're in the key of D, and the chord chart now the chord chart says capo 5, but it also says F sharp minor. Well, F sharp minor is down here behind the capo. So it's something that we don't normally think about as guitar players. We kind of intuit right away that F sharp minor means we're using the E minor shape 2 frets higher than the open string. And the open string here is on the 5th fret because that's where the capo is. So it's not something you would normally think about as a guitar player, but that is the truth behind it. If you hadn't thought about it, then hopefully a light bulb moment right there. Okay, so there's the A form. There we have 1, 4, 5, and 6. Let's put the capo let's just take the capo off. I think I made my point with the capo. The G form is the one that everybody uses, and we'll kind of use this one to talk a little bit about transposing. So G is our 1 chord, and in this case we're all in the open position, so the chords that we're getting are actually the same as the shapes that we're playing, because we have a G chord, G shape, C chord, C shape, D chord, D shape, E minor chord, E minor shape. So the shape and the chord match each other because we're in the open position now. So on and so forth. You can play whatever song you want to. And the reason that the G form is so popular is for that reason. It's because the chord matches the shape in the open position, and you're not borrowing a shape to play another chord like we were with F sharp minor or with F major. For F major, we had to borrow the E shape because there is no F chord shape. F sharp minor, we had to use the E minor shape because there is no F sharp minor shape. There's only the 5 major and 3 minor shapes. We use them to play all of our chords. Okay. We can keep going on and on and on. E shape, we have, E form, sorry. We have the E chord is 1, A is 4, B is 5, and here we go. The B chord, there's no B shape, so we have to borrow one of our other shapes. The closest one is A, because A and B are right next to each other. They're the closest notes in terms of, there's also the G shape. Let's talk about that a little bit. So we have to play a B chord, a B major chord in the key of E, right? And this is going to be our 5 chord, so we have 1, 4, and B is 5. Notice I'm using the A shape to play B there. So I'm using the A shape. Well, there's also the G shape. That's pretty close. There's also the C shape. The problem with using the C shape is there's not enough frets back here. The open string cuts off the availability of the notes that we need another fret behind the nut that doesn't exist. So we can't use the C shape to play it because we don't have enough frets. I need to keep my here. This finger would be playing the fret that would be the open string, and then this one would have to play another fret that's further back, and it's not there. So the C shape, we can't use it. And if we tried, it would sound like that. So the A shape is also there, which is the one that I like to use, but there's also the G shape. And the G shape is just one note further away from A. It's still really close to B. We wouldn't necessarily want to use the E or the D shapes. That's, well, because it's further away on the guitar and they're harder to get to. But the A shape is right there. Considering we're playing A as our 4 chord, and B is going to be our 5 chord in the key of E major. Well, the A chord is really simple. The A chord shape is really simple to use. But there's also the G chord shape, which we could play like that without a capo, which would sound like this: 1, 4, 5, back to 1. It's not a burden to get there to the G shape to play the B major chord. It's a little bit, it's a little bit funky and a little bit weird, and you notice there's a small gap. Whereas if I go from 4 to 5, I can get from 4 to 5 using the same shape a little bit easier. Whereas if I go from 4 to 5 using different shapes, 5 being the B major chord using the G shape, you notice there's a little hesitation or a little space there where I had to actually physically move my hand, and it's not a small distance. It's a pretty far distance to move your hand to make one chord change. Versus using the A chord shape for both, you can get right there because your hand doesn't have to move. Okay. So there's a little bit of strategy involved also in choosing which chord shapes do I want to use to play each of my natural numbers, each of the chords in the song. Which shape do I want to use? There's a little bit of strategy there. Yeah, anyway. So there's well, I didn't get to the 6th chord, which is C sharp minor, just like the F sharp minor. There is no C sharp minor shape. We have to borrow one. And the A minor shape is kind of the only one that's available to us, especially considering where C sharp minor would be played using the other of the 3 minor shapes. We have the A shape, which we could play it right here. And remember, we just played our 5 chord here, and our 4 chords here. So we're not having to move too much to get to the A shape, C sharp minor. But if we wanted to play it, say, with the D minor shape, here it is way up here. Nope, I'm playing it wrong. C sharp minor. There we go. Difficult to get to here from there. Plus it doesn't sound good because that C sharp minor chord is an octave higher. And our ear isn't expecting that, so it sounds a little bit ugly. And there's also C sharp minor in the E minor shape. There, so if we go from 4 to 5 to 6, it doesn't sound so bad because it's in the same octave as we would be playing here. And it's actually in the same voicing as well. So the sound is almost exactly the same. The difficulty is that it's on the 4th fret for the A shape versus the 9th fret for the E minor shape. So it's closer there. So it's kind of our only option. Anyway, I'm kind of trying to go through this and explain all of the whys. Why these shapes, why not another shape? There's a reason for it. It's about the geography of the guitar. How close is that shape for that chord in this key? And it's not always easy to get to a particular shape. Even if it's a shape that's really easy to play, it could be really far away. There could be a space in your playing there where you have to stop and kind of mess around with your fingering to get it right. Anything like that. It could be inconvenient. And my motto for guitar playing, especially acoustic guitar playing, is the simple way well, the best way to play is the easiest. So find the easy way, because the easy way is going to sound the best. It's going to be the simplest, the easiest to play. It'll sound the best. There's no reason not to do it that way. Anyway, last form is the D form. Obviously, the D chord when I throw on the capo, just because. Let's see, we're going to the 7th fret here. Anyone know what key that is? Key of A major. We're using the D form. So I'll talk a little bit about transposition here. I think I said I was going to do that for the G shape, and I forgot to. So I'll do it right now. So we're in the D form. The D shape is our 1 chord. G shape is our 4. A shape is 5. And B minor, it's not a shape. We have to use the A minor shape, but it's implied B minor. We're playing the A minor shape 2 half steps higher, which is how far away B is from A. B is 2 half steps higher than A. There we go. So there's our 6 chord. Right, so, so transposition. How do you know what key you're playing in when you start putting the capo on and you think you want to try a new form? So the D form is a good example of this, because it's, if you have 2 guitar players, it's great for one to throw a capo on, and especially 2 acoustic guitar players. One of them can play down here without a capo, say in the key of D or the key of A, whatever it is, and then the other can throw on a capo and use a different form to play the same chord progression, but maybe an octave higher or something like that, so it'll stand out. It won't just be 2 guitar players playing the same thing, because that's boring and it kind of sounds bad. Much more interesting, much more creative, much better, if you ask me, to do it this way, where you have 1 guitar player playing without the capo, another with the capo, playing in a different form, but you're playing in the same key. So, how do you find that key? Let's take the key of, I have the key of A major queued up, because, I know that's what it is. So, how do I know that? Okay, so I've started with the form that I wanted to choose. That is step number 1. Pick your form. What form do you want to use? The D form is a really easy form to use. It's a really good one. And it sounds really good. The E form kind of sounds bad to me. I don't really like using it. I prefer the D form, I prefer the G form, and the C form. The A form I really don't go for so much, because of that weird F sharp minor. It's a little bit hard to get to it, and it doesn't always sound so good. So I've chosen I want to go for the D form for this song. We're playing in the key of A major. How do I know? How do I get the D form transposed to the key of A major? Well, I know, first of all, that the D chord shape is going to be my 1 chord. 1 chord is the D shape, which means the G chord is going to be the G shape is 4. I've gone over this already. A is 5. And B minor, which is the A minor shape moved up 2 frets, is our 6th chord. So think about the root notes. You have to think about the root note of the shape. You have to know what the root note of the shape is. So for the D chord, as an example, the root note of the chord is D, and I'm thinking about this without a capo on. So down here in the open position, you're playing the D chord. The D chord is your open D string because it's the D chord. D is the root note of D major, and you have an open string D. That is the lowest note that you're kind of playing. And here I am on the 7th fret doing the same thing. So the same rule applies. The open string of the D string, the open D string, is my root note. Now I have to know what are the notes on the neck on each string. On the D string, the open string, well, if I take the capo off for just a second, the open D string is D. And where's E? E comes after D, right? You know that. E, it's 2 half steps higher. So there's E on the 2nd fret. F is another half step higher. G is 2 more. A is 2 more on the 7th fret. B is the 9th fret. C is the 10th fret. And you're back to D on the 12th fret. So, what key am I playing in? What form am I using? I'm using the D form. D string is going to be my root note, open. And we're playing in the key of A. A on the D string is on the 7th fret, which means I need the 7th fret to ring open, which means that's where I put my capo, on the 7th fret, to give me the open D string on the 7th fret, which is the note A. Which means now, if I plug in my D shape, I'm going to get an A major chord. Check it with the open string. Playing the A chord with the A shape, it's the same chord. I drop the capo. Put the capo back on. D shape now. And there we go. It is an A major chord using the D shape. And and to think about what the other chords are. The 4 chord is a G shape. What chord is that in the key of A major? A, B, C, D. D is the 4th chord of A major. So we're playing the G shape, but the chord that we're making is a D major chord. Notice the chords that we're playing, A major, D major, those have their own shapes down here that you can play without the capo. So that's what the other guitarist is doing. They're playing A major chord shape, D major chord shape, and they're getting the same chords that you are. So you're playing the D form. A major, D major. Now the 5 chord is under the A shape. What chord is that? It's E major. A, B, C, D, E. And our 6th chord, we're playing a B minor shape. What chord is that? Well, you would A, B, C, D, E, F. But remember, in the key of A major, F is sharp. So it's F sharp, it's the 6th chord, which is minor. F sharp minor is the chord that we're getting here. Okay. Cool. So, really important to know this stuff. First of all, to have options. Have options for playing multiple different chord progressions, or any chord progression in any worship song, in any key that you want to. You have to be able to know how to do that. You have to know where all of the notes are on every single string on the entire neck. You have to know your key signatures. You have to know what chords go in what key, how they relate to each other. You have to be able to think off the top of your head. Key of B flat is 1, E flat is 4, F is 5, and G minor is 6. You have to know that right away. Once you know that, you can use ear training a little bit. knowing it, you have to be able to know it, right? You have to be able to know it because you have to be able to use this, and you can't do that without knowing that stuff. You have to know your scales, you have to know your chords. But once natural numbers, the number system is a cheat code. It's a shortcut, so that you don't have to think about what chord am I playing and transposing that shape to that chord or that chord to that shape or whichever way it ends up being. You don't have to do that. You can just think 1, 4, 5, 6. And what helps you do that is your ear training. You play enough music over enough time, especially worship music, you will know based on just listening, using your ear. You will know what the one chord is. So let me just play randomly. I'm not going to show the neck. I'm going to hide it and see if you can figure out where the one chord is. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? That's the one chord. It's not this. Couldn't be. Not this. Couldn't be. Not this. First of all, it's a minor chord, and you know you're playing in a major key. Minor chord can't be the one chord, right? So it has to be that, and you can hear it right away. You don't need anybody to tell you. You just have to be able to hear it. Okay, so there we go. There's the number system on the guitar, the 5 forms that you can play in. Playing with a capo, playing without a capo, and knowing your stuff, knowing your instrument, knowing your music theory. All really important.